Welcome back to the show, everybody. How about this? Bloomberg analyst is calling for a $100,000 Bitcoin possibly by the end of next month. How about that one? How about XRP 50-to-1 risk versus reward? And what happens when the lawsuit's really over that could send XRP parabolic in price? Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove and everything that we're talking about here today. Let's go ahead and take a look at the market cap at $1.892 trillion. We're still off by let me get my glasses on, 4.62% for the cryptocurrency market cap. Everything is down today except the stable coins. Look, Bitcoin at 42,000 plus, Ethereum at 2,800 plus. And you know what? I'm going to prove to you guys that, even though we've been showing hashtag ETHgate, I want to see the whole space do well. Full disclosure, I do hold some Bitcoin. Full disclosure, I do hold Ethereum. It's because I want to see everything do well. And obviously I hold Cardano and I hold XRP, none of which is financial advice and many other assets. But still, the reality is I want to see these things do well, but I don't want to see a unique advantage that Ethereum has been given that is not provided to the rest of the market, Ripple and XRP included. All right, so let's look right here. XRP is at 93 cents. Let's take a look at the range on price really quickly here, because there is calls from many different technical analysts that are calling for a breakout, but we could see XRP retrace all the way back in a healthy correction to the 75, 76 cent range. Currently, we've seen it go as far as in the mid 80 cent range. Right now, we see the low end of price range at 89 cents, the upper end of the price range at $1. We're sitting at 0.9363 this morning. Let's go ahead and get into the news. Just to brush it up here, Twitter will now allow users to send and receive tips using Bitcoin. The updates are part of a strategy at Twitter to court creators by giving them more ways to share their work on the service and more ways to make money. Yeah, let's monetize Twitter, shall we? That's a great idea. This is a reminder. I did touch on this briefly, but here is the actual article here that says China's central bank says all crypto-related transactions are illegal. Bitcoin plunges 5%. All business activities related to digital currencies are now deemed illegal in China. However, there's no ban on cryptocurrency ownership. So what they're really doing here appears to me to be that they're positioning to set up the digital yuan for success and to not have any competition with that on and off ramp. And I think you're going to see that approach follow suit around most of the world, believe it or not. This is a reminder right here that there's a problem with the SEC or there's a problem with Coinbase or Kraken, one or the other. Check it out. Now, we need to press on to figure out who's not really being truthful here. The chief lawyer from Kraken, Marco Santori, points out that although he doesn't agree with the SEC's approach to the crypto space, he says that he doesn't think that Brian Armstrong's tweets on social media have served him well when it comes to Coinbase and the lending platform and the recent threat of SEC suing them over it. They have discontinued the idea of that lending platform, but Marco Santori says, I cannot support that kind of approach with regulators. It's never been successful historically. And from our experience at Kraken, we've found the SEC to be open to discussion. Well, I find that interesting because Brian Armstrong says when they reached out to the SEC and tried to get a meeting with them, the SEC told them that they weren't meeting with any crypto companies. So somebody's not being truthful. Maybe it's the SEC. Maybe it's one of either Kraken or Coinbase. I don't know, but someone's not being truthful. And if it's the SEC, it's another example of inconsistency from that agency. And now it's happening underneath of Gary Gensler's watch. Here we get Jeremy Allaire, who lays it down that as far as the ideology and message to U.S. and Western policymakers on how to think about China's approach to crypto and blockchain. China opposes Western system values built on openness, transparency, privacy, and free market competition, and so forth. And Jeremy, honestly, one could make the same claims about certain people in the U.S. The internet itself is an expression of these values, and it's one of the reasons China has fought to control the internet. These values are so deeply at the core of crypto and blockchain, enshrining them into new economic and governance infrastructure. Well said, Jeremy Allaire. He goes on to lay out all of this about what the benefits are and how we should think of these things to create an open, new internet of value, essentially. I'm paraphrasing, but I want to remind people, because we're going to get on to something here in a second, because we have a Bloomberg analyst who believes that we could see $100,000 Bitcoin by the end of next month. Now, if that were to happen, Bitcoin dominates and leads the market. What does that put the rest of the crypto space at in price? What does that put XRP in price? More importantly, what is happening after the SEC lawsuit ends that could send XRP parabolic? We're going to talk about that in a second. Fed Chair Powell updates progress of digital dollar and says, I don't think we're behind on the CBD regulation. And here's what I have to say. Look, I think they have the ability to take the lead. They certainly are not leading. I think we could all agree on that, right? Here's the deal, though. But at the end of the day, they do have the ability to make a public-private relationship, let's say with Jeremy Allaire, who was just recently mentioned here prior to this, and the USD coin, and you could instantly use that public-private relationship to put us in the front of the line instantly, just like that. However, they could still choose to do a CBDC that's wholesale back end as well for the market. So you could have a public-private relationship for retail front-end use of a digital dollar, and they could still go on to develop a wholesale CBDC for back end as well through central banks and systems like that, in a system of that nature. So we will see what happens here. Here's a very important tweet from Charles Gasparino, who has been carrying the torch to shine a light on the inconsistency from the SEC. Remember, this is not about Ripple and XRP. This is not really about Ethereum. This is about inconsistency in the leadership and the delivery of regulation from the SEC, from Jay Clayton to William Hinman to now Gary Gensler, who is doubling and tripling down on what was done before he took the chair. He says, I've requested comment from Bill Hinman on his 2018 crypto speech, and he has declined. We have placed calls into Ethereum and request information from Jay Clayton through Apollo Global Press Office. Haven't heard back. Stay tuned for our mystery guest today at 3:30 Eastern Time on Fox Business with Liz Clayman. Oh, who could it be? Who could it be? I don't know, but I will try to catch it. I don't have cable, so anyone out there who happens to catch this clip and could send it to me right away, greatly appreciate it, because I do want to see who the mystery guest is going to be. John Deaton responds back to that tweet from Charles Gasparino, and he really has just laid this down on fire, because it was just yesterday that Jay Clayton was on with Andrew Sorkin from CNBC, and he says there's no reason for Clayton to not speak to Gasparino. Clayton went on with Andrew Sorkin yesterday, of course, despite a mountain of evidence pointing to an appearance of impropriety. Sorkin didn't ask one follow-up question and simply allowed Clayton to give a general denial. He certainly did. Shame, shame. Bond Crypt tells us, get to know Gensler. SEC Gary Gensler reveals plans to clean up crypto space. Gensler considers over 5,000 cryptocurrencies to be securities. How's that for a cleanup on aisle 5? Yeah, and won't relent in going after them. He also considers stable coins to be private monies and not liable to last. Now, in this, we have to understand that Gary Gensler not only does see the majority of the market as securities. Cryptocurrencies to him are securities, broadly speaking, generally speaking. What is more concerning than that is that we know he is a part of that president's working group, and no one is stopping him. Let that sink in. Let's take a look at this. DevVer Group says, CEO says that XRP will likely witness a breakout rally similar to the Cardano's meteoric rise, for which they apparently had called that price jump from Cardano prior to it happening. There's not much other evidence in the article to really look at here, but what I wanted to take you to is this. Mike McGlone here is talking to Daniela Cambone, I believe it is, and she has a fantastic channel, Stansberry Research, so forgive me, Daniela Cambone, for messing up your name, but you do a great job with your channel, and I'd love to have you on as a guest too, by the way. You get to interview so many people. We should interview Daniela Cambone. How about that? So let's listen here at this 2-minute stretch of what he says could bring $100,000 Bitcoin as early as next month. Pretty impressive.
Mike McGlone, he is the commodity strategist over at Bloomberg Intelligence. Mike, always good to see you. Welcome to StansberryInvestor.com.
Well, hello, Daniela, and thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. So let's talk the road to 100,000. Your latest report from Bloomberg Intelligence says, hey, it's a possibility this year. How so?
Well, I've been looking at this for about a year, and it's more based on questions I've been getting. Okay, McGlone, you keep saying 100 grand, give us good reasons. So I finally decided, all right, let's put out a deck that shows some of the charts. And one thing I missed from that I'll mention first is ETFs. There's still a high probability that the U.S. is just going to follow Canada, maybe just a futures-based, Bitcoin ETF. But the fact that there are now over 30 applications, and the fact that money is migrating from the U.S., notably from Cathie Wood and ARK, towards Canada, the pressure is quite strong and high for the U.S. regulators to say, all right, we're kind of missing out here. We need to do that. So in the bigger picture, the foundation to me really got started last year, and I'll leave you with this. It's very, from a commodity strategy standpoint, is somewhat simplistic. Supply is declining, demand is increasing, and then you look at the history of Bitcoin, typically years after a halving, which is when you cut supply, which we did last year, it usually has some of its best performance, which is prime candidate for 2021.
Okay, so to that note and to that point, on the ETFs front, I mean, in order to move the needle, I mean, could you see that happening by year end? I mean, December's right around the corner here.
Oh, yes. In fact, potentially by the end of October, but a futures-based ETF, meaning, kind of way you track most commodities, crude oil, corn, copper, everything. Most of those are tracked via futures, with the exception of gold, which are physically backed. So it's just a matter of time. And Gensler even hinted at that. And it'd be a nice little baby step for the SEC. So it makes sense. And that would open up, now futures-based might not be the best thing, but it's better than nothing. It follows Canada and just opens up that legitimization window for a massive amount of money inflows. And one thing I have to point out is, so if I had, kind of own your mistakes, and if I had just kind of a little more in Ethereum this year, I'd be at that 100,000 mark, because Ethereum's up the equivalent. If Bitcoin just catches up to Ethereum, of which there's been some ETFs launched in Canada, it would be at 100,000. In fact, it'd be close to 130. So I think that's part of the reason it's probably going to get there. And the question is when.
Wow. I mean, this is a Bloomberg analyst. This isn't a podcaster or YouTuber. This guy does this for a living. Does that mean he's going to be right? No. But he's looking at the indicators and he's using the tools which are theory-based to show what the leading indicators are suggesting. And if we see the fundamental news of ETFs, futures ETFs, what have you, be approved, we could see a massive run on Bitcoin's price. Now, we know Bitcoin dominates the space. So then you have to ask yourself, how does the trickle-down effect of that news, should it take place, not only affect Bitcoin's price, but how does it affect the rest of the market? Well, here was a conversation recently with BitBoy and Raoul Pal from Real Vision, who is an amazing investor and has incredible insight on this crypto space. So let's take a listen here at this clip I've got set up for you, where he evaluates what he believes about XRP to be a 50-to-1 risk versus reward. And then they talk about price. And they also mention something very, very key that we've kind of lost sight of because of the melees and the morass of the SEC case itself against Ripple and XRP. Listen to this exchange right here, and shout out to BitBoy and Raoul Pal for this conversation.
Do you have any thoughts on first the lawsuit? and what maybe that has, what effect that can have on crypto in general. And then, what do you see for XRP?
And now you're getting ready to hear some incredible perspective from Raoul Pal. Listen to what he says about the history of these lawsuits in this space thus far.
Unfortunately, I think we totally agree with each other. XRP is a great risk reward, right? The lawsuit, we've seen every lawsuit, every single one has been a fine.
Mm-hmm. Everyone.
A slap on the wrist, because everybody's actually cleared up after the event anyway. And these events were a while ago, BitMEX, that's happening. We're going to see all of this. So I think it's going to be a slap on the wrist, that it could have looked like a security. There'll be no admission of guilt on either side. Mm-hmm. There'll be a payment of a fine, and then XRP is free to run. What's interesting about XRP is there is quite a lot of use cases. Now, I know a bunch of Bitcoin people hate it. It's not decentralized enough. I don't care. It's, are people using it? Yes, a lot more than most people realize. And what's amazing about this setup is you can't buy us on any of the exchanges. And it's not in the Bitwise ETF. The Bitwise ETF is now $1 billion. The Bitwise index is, the top 10 index is $1 billion. So the moment XRP is freed, they have to buy a few $100 million of it, as everybody else can, because the exchanges will have it back. So you're setting up for a hell of a nice run if this clears up. Worst case, it doesn't. Worst case is, let's say, 50% downside. Best case is 10x from here. So I'll take a 50-to-1 risk reward for the next 3 to 6 months.
I mean, just incredible insight here. Now listen to what BitBoy follows this up with as well. Check this out.
Yeah, I think 10x is pretty good from this point. I mean, that would put it over $10. I think $10 to $15 is probably in the right range for where we should see XRP go. There's a much more bullish case, in my opinion, where we could see higher, 20 to 30, but that would be, all of a sudden bank after bank is coming out adopting. And what a lot of people don't understand is that we're also focused on the XRP lawsuit, rightly so, and its effect on the price. But, there's a phase two. There's a step two of this, which is after this is cleared and they get the SEC lawsuit out of the way, they're officially not a security. Well, now that sets Ripple Labs to go public. And that's something a lot of people aren't talking about. So if you look at what
that is a huge key point, and we've certainly talked about it on the channel, but of late we've focused so much on what's going on with the case and all of the information that's been uncovered around Ethereum and the fact that they had been working behind the scenes with the SEC and getting that unique advantage, which really needs to be investigated and explained further when it comes to getting a pass on the initial coin offering. That we have let it slip a little bit when it comes to what happens after this lawsuit ends. And there's a couple things here. One, they do intend to go public. Ripple will go public after this case is settled and out of the way. And then number two, how many banks and how quickly will these banks begin to announce that they're going live with XRP for settlement, because we already know that they're on RippleNet. Now, I don't know about you. That 50 to 1 risk reward might be even better odds than it already is. But I tell you this, not financial advice from me or anybody else, but that to me is the best accurate picture of where we are on this day and what is about to unfold. Again, not financial advice. Hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. That's going to do it for me. Make sure you check out all the links in the description box and the comment section. And by the way, this is why I tell you guys about Link to Private Investing Made Simple. Ripple is going to go public at some point. And right now it's private equity. So if you're an accredited investor, and if you're not, click the button and find out how to become one if you're interested in getting it. Because at some point it's going to have its moment, just like Coinbase and all the other projects and companies that have been on this platform. Remember, Coinbase was $32 on here and then IPO'd for $400. I know that's a hell of a swing, and I wouldn't mind taking it myself. All right, I'll catch all of you on the next one.